In section 4.2, we will talk about translations of our graphs. In other words, shifting our graph vertically and horizontally. First, we will talk about vertical shift. A vertical shift comes from adding or subtracting a constant on the outside of a function. We will call this vertical shift, we're going to call that C. So C plus sine of x or C plus cosine x. So starting out, let's look at what the graph of y equals 1 plus sine x is going to look like. So what we want to do is plug in 0 as our angle in radians in place of x. So that's 1 plus sine of 0. And the sine of 0 is 0, so that gives us 1 plus 0, which is 1. One plus sine of pi over 2. Well, sine of pi over 2 is 1. So 1 plus 1 will give us 2. If our x value is pi, 1 plus sine of pi is 0. So I get 1. Sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1, so 1 minus 1, we get 0. Sine of 2 pi is 0, so 1 plus 0 gets us to 1. What we're going to see here is that the vertical shift of our graph, our whole sine graph, will be shifted up 1 unit. The amplitude, the number that's actually being multiplied times the front of sine, is like an implied 1. So our amplitude is also 1. And the period, we have not multiplied the inside of the function by any value other than 1, so the period will remain 2 pi. As we start to plot these points, what we see is that the graph is shifted up vertically by 1 unit. So instead of being at the middle of my graph being on the x-axis, the middle of the graph is now shifted up to be y equals 1. So a vertical shift actually moves the middle of my graph up 1 unit. Now it's y equals 1. And because our amplitude is 1, we're actually going up 1 unit from the middle of our graph, from y equals 1, and we're actually going down 1 unit from y equals 1. So all of the original values of sine of x are actually shifted up 1 unit. And as we plot those points, we see that our sine wave is shifted completely up 1 unit from the x-axis. So you notice that the amplitude is still 1. So from the middle of the graph to the top is still 1, and from the middle of the graph to the bottom is still 1. So the amplitude now is going from the new middle to the top and from the new middle to the bottom. We also see that our period, the period of this function, has not changed. It still goes from 0 to 2 pi, and every 2 pi units we repeat that same pattern.